Afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of live, scary WordPress plugin development. So if you missed part 1, then we did that. I think it was on Wednesday afternoon, and we just set up our plugin that we're going to build, adding the GitHub repository, getting things set up locally, and just kind of creating the plugin in WordPress. So it was fairly straightforward, I think. The plugin that we're going to build is called Editable Archive Pages. And the plan is to have a post in WordPress that allows a user somewhere to edit the content on dynamically created WordPress pages. So those are the things like post type archives, taxonomy terms, and possibly data archives, although I'm not quite sure how we're going to do those, but who knows, we can see if we can get there. We'll never know. If you're joining along on YouTube, then welcome. Thank you for joining me. I hope you get something out of this, and do say hello and let me know where you're from. If you want to continue watching these, I don't know how many we're going to do, and I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know how long it'll take to build this plugin, but if you want to continue watching, then hit that subscribe button just below the video and you will get, well, you won't miss out, will you, on any of them? And if you're liking it as well, hit the like button. So let's get started with today's session. What we're going to do today, I've got myself a little plan today. I didn't really have one last time, but I've tried to be a bit more prepared. So we're going to do some registering of post types. I'll talk about that in a second. We're going to then create the different posts for each archive page that we need to, and then associate those with those archives. So we're going to have a post that's for our custom post types, etc. And then we might even get on to sort of how to delete those as well. So let's say someone deletes, like removes a post type. Do we get rid of that post or not? We'll have to think about that as well. So I'm going to try and keep it fairly short. I don't want to go on for too much longer, about half an hour, and then we'll see how far we get on that one. So I'm going to switch over to my screen so that you can see the contents of my screen. And hopefully you can see that now. So this is the install of WordPress that I was using on eap.test. This is just local development. I use MAMP Pro, I think it is. And it's dead simple to create a website. So I've just created this website. And what we did at the end of the last session was to create a custom post type called case studies. And that was the sort of post type that we're going to use in our testing, if you like. So just to confirm what we're doing here, under case studies, we're going to have another menu item under here called archive page or something else, but essentially that's what it'll be. And when we click on that, it's going to take us to an edit post screen. And that'll be the post where we can edit the contents of that particular archive. Now, my plan is that you'll be able to edit the title. You'll be able to obviously add blocks to that post. And then what we're going to do is put those or output those above the dynamically generated archive, which will list, in this case, all of the case studies. So that's the plan to do that with. So that's what we're going to do. I will warn you, my local environment is running particularly slowly. It was a bit the same last time, and I only assume that's because I've got all this video stuff powering it to do it live, so apologies for that. I need to try and figure out a way of speeding that up a little bit. Maybe it's MAMP Pro, maybe I need to be using something else. I don't know. Might get a chance to look into it, but there you go. If you have any questions, then please put them in the chat. I will try and get to them as I go along. So we've got Mark and Dave and Herb and Elliot, and I believe Keith is watching us as well. Then hello to you all. Nice to see you, or to, well, kind of see you. And we'll see how we get on. So let's crack cracking. This is my text editor. I've got, no, I haven't. I used to use Sublime Text. This is VS Code. I don't know if anyone's used it. I'm still getting to grips with it, to be honest. It's good. It's good. And I'm not using all the sort of funky stuff that it does at the moment, but there you go. So let's get cracking. And we're going to start off by registering our post type that we're going to use to store the posts for each archive page. Now, you could say, well, why don't we just use pages? Because, we want to create pages for the archive pages. We could, but I don't actually want these to have a public-facing URL. So if we used a page, that would have its own URL as well. and you'd kind of get a bit of a weird thing whereby that might get indexed and then we're putting the same content on the top of an archive page. So what we're going to do is create a custom post type, and we're going to basically make it a non-public post type. So it's literally just in the back end for us to do some adding of content in blocks and titles and so forth. So here is my plugin folder. Let me know if this is a bit small for you, by the way. I probably can just make it a little bit bigger. I think it's okay. It was the same size I did last time. And I am going to first of all create myself a new folder, and I'm going to call it ink for search, not create a new folder. What's happening there? New folder. There we go, that's better. I'm going to call it ink for my includes. So this is just kind of how I've set up my projects. Not particularly object orientated, unfortunately, but nice and simple, and hopefully it works. And then what I usually do is inside the ink folder, I create a new file and I call it loader.php. And the reason, whoops, not leader, loader.php. And the reason I do that is so that I can just loop through any of the files that are in this folder and include them in the plugin, rather than having to, every time I add a new file, go into the root file and say include this particular file. That's just my way of doing it. Again, there's right and wrong about all these different things, but that's how I do it. So to get that going, what we need to do is obviously include our loader file. So we'll do that first of all in the root file here. So just paste that in rather than typing it out. So basically require this file once. It's in the ink folder. It's called loader.php. Save that, and then in this loader file, this is where we're going to do our looping through of all the files in the ink folder and make them load. So let's do that now. Sorry, I'm just having to look at some code on my other screen. I don't want to bore you by having to type it all out and then you have to put up with all my typos. So I'll add a comment at the top. So this file includes all of the included files into the plugin. Now you could do, there's all sorts of probably like official stuff that you should put at the top of this file. I'm not going to do that today. As I said, I want to keep it nice and swift, hopefully. So here's the code that I'm going to add to this. So basically, glob is a PHP function that basically looks for all the files in a specific folder. So I'm passing it the path of my plugin here, and I'm saying find all of the files that have .php at the end. So it's something.php. And then if we've got any, so if that's returned a list of files, then we're going to loop through each file. And what we're going to do is, if the file that we found contains the file name of this file, then we want to just do nothing. We want to continue to the next file. Otherwise, we'd end up loading it twice. And then if that's working, then we can require that file indeed. So any files that I'll drop into this ink folder are going to be loaded straight away without me having to jump back into this here and do, copy that and then change the path, etc. So that is how I do it. So let's save that file there, and we can kind of test it, I suppose, by creating another file. So let's go to new, and this is going to be called post types because we're going to create our post type. I suppose it could be post type. You never know, I might want to add another one in the future, so we'll give it a plural. There we go. And then we're going to register a post type. So again, I've got this code somewhere else, but let's put a comment on here. So registers the custom post types for the plugin. And then we'll do a function. Now, as I said, I'm not an OOP coder, so everything's like procedural. So this is just going to be a regular function in WordPress that's going to be hooked into the init function, the init hook, and it's going to register my post type that I want to use. So I'm going to prefix everything with EAP, editable archive pages. Might do HD as well. No, I'll just do EAP. And then I'm going to register, post type. Let's do register archive, like the name of the post type. And then we'll do add action, hook it into WordPress on the init hooks. That's kind of when WordPress fires up. it will load our post type. And then we can register our post type in here. So register post type for archive pages. Okay. So register post type. Just glancing at the comments. Elliot says, interesting way of loading in the files. Yeah, it was. I found that probably a few years ago actually, and until then I was kind of just doing them all manually, like include this, include this, include this, include this. I just found it really easy to do once you do it once. Feel free to borrow it, Mark. Absolutely fine. So register post type. Right, let's just grab this. So this is obviously just a WordPress function to register post type. I'm sure you've all seen it before. So we're going to register the name of our post type. Again, I'm going to prefix this, and I'm just going to call it archive page. EAP underscore archive page. So this will be the post type that stores the posts that are associated with each archive. So in this case, there'll be one post that's associated with the case studies post type, which we're going to use to edit the content on that. And then the register posts function has a long array of different things that you can set for this. So again, I'm just going to grab those from another project just to save me from writing them all out. There's probably like an extension for this. Someone's going to shout at me and say, why don't you just use that, and it'll just populate it all for you. And maybe I should be, but there you go. Paste all that in, there we go, that's good. So we're going to set it to false as public. So we don't want this to have user-facing URLs, to avoid that sort of duplicate content type thing where you've got the page as well as the archive content. We don't want it to show, we kind of want to hide this from the back end of WordPress, except for that link that I'm going to put on the bottom in the menu, which I showed you at the start there. So I don't want it to show in the nav menus for like when you're creating a menu in WordPress. I don't want it to show in the admin bar. I want it to be excluded from search because I don't want that turning up anytime soon. I think I need to show UI because I want to have obviously a post type edit screen. And the showing menu, I think this is the showing menu for on the left hand side in the admin. So at the moment, I'm actually going to make that true because while I'm developing this, I want to be able to just see which posts have been created, if you like. But we will remove that eventually. I'll show you what that looks like in the back end in a second. Do we want to be able to export them? Not really. I suppose we could leave that as true. Delete with user, hierarchical. It's not hierarchical. Doesn't have an archive. We don't really need a menu icon because it's not going to be in the menu. And then the query var is going to be the same name as the post type. I think if you leave that blank, actually, it probably does that. And then we can put some labels. Do we need labels? Well, we'll probably need some labels because of when we actually do some development, because we need it to be in the menu. But again, we probably don't need them because we're not going to see it in the back end. Certainly for the menu, we might need it for some other things. Those should be fine anyway, archive pages. And what does it support? So here's where we can decide what we want to allow the user to be able to, what content we want to allow them to choose. So I want them to be able to set the title. So what the plan is here, we're going to filter the archive title function so that it's going to pull the title from our post rather than doing the default one for an archive. I don't know what the default is for a post type. That's interesting. And then we want the editor because we want them to be able to drop blocks on there. And do we want the thumbnail? Do we want them to be able to put a picture on? I suppose that's optional. You could decide to do that or not. Let's leave it in. We might be able to do something with it. We'll see. So I'm going to save that. And let's just stick a comment above here. I'm a stickler for comments. I'm sure a lot will disagree about that. Register the post type for archive pages. Like that. I like to comment most things. Some don't, and that's fine. But I think it's important. So that is my post type. So if I refresh this, and I'd say bear with me, it does take a few seconds to load, which is kind of annoying, although it didn't. That was quick, but it didn't work. Why is it not there? Let's have a look. What if I change that to true? Does it just display then? Still not there. Is it actually loading? Die. Did I save it? Yes. Is it going to work? Okay, so that file isn't even being loaded, which is interesting. Ink loader. Loader. Good question. Have I enabled the plugin? Thank you, Keith. Well done. I thought I did that last time, but I obviously didn't. So activate the plugin. Probably going to get an error now. And we do. Well, no, that's because I put die in the top to try and check it works. Live coding, folks. Live coding. There has still been a critical error. Right, here we go. So now I've got in my debug.log, fatal error, call to undefined culture, register port types. There you go. Can't even do a simple WordPress function correctly. Getting there, but we're getting there. There we go. Archive pages. Beautiful. So we have our custom post type, which is going to store those posts. So if I click add new, it should allow me to add a title. It should allow me to add blocks. It's not allowing me to add blocks, and I think I know why, and it's allowing me to add an image. That's fine. I believe the reason why it's not allowing me to do blocks is because I haven't said REST API showing REST, because the block editor requires the REST API. So showing REST is true. And I think it should magically display the block editor. Thank you, Craig. I've already got that. Register post types, plural. There we go. There is the magical block editor. So let's just check what we've got. We can do the title, we can add blocks, and we can add an image, which is there. Cool. I never realised that said the name of the post type, but I do now. Cool. So we're all cooking there. So next thing we need to do is we need to. I hate it when you can't see the menu. Hang on a minute. Full screen mode. There we go. Does anyone else use that full screen mode, or do they just literally do what I've just done all the time? Because I just like having the menu and stuff around it, but I guess each to their own. What we're going to do now is we're going to create the posts for each of our archives. So in this case, we're going to just do the one because we've only got case studies as the post type, as a custom post type. Obviously, if you've got like 10 custom post types, we'd loop through each one of them, and each one would get a post generated for it. But before we do that, let's jump into here and do that. Let me just clear the log as well and close some stuff down. Cool. So I don't know where to do this. Should we have a new file for this, or should we have, I suppose we could do it in that file really, couldn't we? Because it's kind of related to the post type. So let's do that. Yeah, Mark says he also turns it off. That's good to know, not that I'm just the only one. Function, let's register. So what this is going to do is create the archive posts. And we'll also do this on, I think we'll do this on init action as well. So it happens when WordPress initiates. Let me have a look. Where are we? Go back to here. Cool. So, no, we won't do it on the init action. We will do it on the action when a post type has been registered, which I believe is that. But I'm not entirely certain, so I'll have to check that in a second. So basically what that means is that's going to get passed some arguments. I'm going to guess that it's going to pass me the post type name, and I hope it's going to pass me an array of arguments, which is basically going to be these things that we've registered up here. But I need to check that. Bear with me a sec. Someone might be able to tell me. But seeing as there's a little lag on the video, you might not tell me in time. Registered post type. I guess it's hooked in at the bottom of there, is it? Let me just check. Go. Where's the actual source code? I thought it put it on here for you, but maybe it doesn't. It's there, isn't it? Yeah, expand. There. Oh, it's an action. Do action, registered post type. Yeah, that's right. That's right, and I get the post type and the post type objects. Cool. So, let us do some logging of that then. So if I just dump out to the screen post type. And give it a label. Oops. Post type object. There. That's one thing I don't like about VS Code. I don't know if anyone else finds it. Things pop up. It's a bit like Gutenberg, I suppose. Things pop up over the top of you, and I get confused of where I am. Like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that happens in all ones, but I'm not sure. Right. Let's dump those things out to the screen to see what we actually have, and then we can move from there. And there's another critical error. Lovely. Let's have a look at that. Debug log. Too few R's because I've not done that, isn't it? Silly. Let's pass 2 arguments. So I'm passing, I forgot to do these. So 2 arguments are being passed to my function. So I need to make sure I declare those in the add action hook. Hopefully that will fix the problem. Nailed. Just clear that log and then I can see what the actual error is going to be. Post type cannot be converted to a string in post types on line 62. Line 62. What's line 62? That's that one. Oh, it's got 2 thingies. The pressures of live coding means I can't type. Right, cool. So we should have the registered post types in WordPress. Why is it only returned post? That's probably because it's down here. Excellent. So it's return post, it's return page, and it should return my custom one. It'll do all the other ones, attachment and media, not media, navbar item and revision and all that sort of stuff. I haven't seen the new Ray app. Craig, if you could put a link to that, that would be great. That would be good. Maybe that's something I need to learn. I'm pretty old-fashioned when it comes to debugging, I'm afraid. So what we need to do now is we need to kind of ignore all of these, what are they called? Like utility post types in WordPress, like customized change and custom CSS and all that sort of stuff. Oh, embed cache. I didn't realize there were so many. Last time I did this was only about 4, I think. User request. What's that one? Or is that something to do with the privacy, I wonder, in WordPress? You know, when you can like request your data. I don't know. Tell me if you know. Block. There you go. That's reusable blocks. And there's the custom post type that registered, and hopefully mine's at the bottom. There we go. So that's ours. So we want to ignore everything except our custom post type. So let's basically do some logic in here. Now I'm guessing, and I'll be able to tell actually, all those ones that have been registered, like this one, because we only want to do this if the post type has an archive. So if the user has said, I want this post type to have an archive, we only want to do something with this, in which case I suspect all of these sort of internal ones in WordPress has archive to set to false. So let me just check that. Has archive false. Excellent. So that makes it much easier. So if this post type is our archive pages post type if BAP archive page is equal to this post type that's just been registered. So this variable here is this one here. Then what we want to do is absolutely nothing. So return. So we don't want to set an archive page for an archive page, if that makes sense. We don't want to do that for our internal one. And the same, we can say if this post type should not be using archives. Oops. If that'll be in the args, won't it? So it'll be set to false. So if the post type archives have been set to false, which is, we said that was an object, didn't it? So it must be that. And post, no, as archive. Come on, Mark, get with it. There we go. So if this post type is not using archives, then once again, let's do absolutely nothing. Then, so basically, we've now got to the point where the post types that we've got left are using archives, and we want to actually create one of our posts with them. Good point, Craig. I might want to check whether they're public. Would you want to do this for a non-public post type? Don't know. Probably not. You're probably right, actually. Let's do that then. So is public, where is public? I guess it's just right in the root of this, isn't it? Yeah, so let's do if the type is not public. Yeah, because you can't have an archive, it's not public, of course. So if false is equal to, it is public, it's just public, isn't it? Let's have a check. Yeah, public. Okay, Herb says, is post type viewable? Thank you, Herb. I've never heard of that. Let's have a look what it does. Is post type viewable? There's always a function in WordPress. It's awesome, isn't it? Determines whether a post type is considered viewable. For built-in post types such as posts and pages, the public value will be evaluated. So basically, that does that check, doesn't it? So yeah, let's use that. So if this post type is not viewable, what was it called? Is post type viewable? And if it's if it's not viewable, we do nothing. So we want to return. Cool. And then let me just remove those two dumps. WP got dump. Let's just dump out the post type this time. We should be left with a lot less post types than we were before. Refresh. That's really annoying as well when you have to do that. There we go. Oh no, we've got an error. Too many arguments in function. Is post type viewable? Passed. I haven't passed the post type name. That's why. What a fool. No definition found. Interesting. So presumably you've got to pass the post type to that. Let me just double check. Yeah, of course you do. Okay. So post type to there. And refresh. Yay! We're just left with our custom post type for case studies that's been registered. Beautiful. Right, now, here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to create a post in our archive pages post type, which is associated with that. Before we do that, though, we need to check whether we've already done this. So I wonder how best to do that. I wonder if it's best to query the post at this point, or whether it's best to store this in an option or something like that. I wonder. Let's do a query. So this post type. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll imagine this is the first time this is ever run. I'm going to create a post for this post type, and then I'm going to save some metadata that basically says I've done that job. And then before I actually create the post, I'm also going to check whether that data's there. Do we have a post already created for this post type? So we're going to query for archive pages, which it's going to do that every page load, isn't it? Don't know. That's very efficient or not. Any thoughts, anybody? Store these in an option or query all the pages every time? I guess the ultimate answer would be to do both and test them and see which one's best. I'm going to do a query for archive pages which have already been created for this post type. Just do a normal WP query, I guess. WP query. I've realised it's half an hour now, so I'm not going to go on too much longer. So this will be post type. And this is going to be my name of my custom post type, archive page. I could do all actually there, don't think that matters, but never mind. And let's then do archive, I can't spell, archive pages posts. See if that dumps any page. Shouldn't dump anything out, obviously. Refresh. Something up there hiding. There we go. So there's no current posts created, but I need to do my meta query in there, don't I? So let's do. Is it meta key? It's meta key, I think, isn't it? Meta key. Did Keith put a cameo appearance in then? Did I just see? Meta key. So this will be EAP post type, should we call it? And the meta value is going to be the name of the current post type. Oops. Which we know is that. I think that's right. Who was that guy? I hope it was Keith, who is driving the tech today for me to try and take some load off this machine, which seems to be working actually. It's a bit quicker. Don't know if you guys think the whole thing's a bit quicker. My coding editor's a bit faster, and also the local machine. So that's fine. Then what we need to do is create the post. So let us do that. I'll handle that query in a minute. So in fact, I'm going to comment that out because I want to create the post and then I know it's been created in the right way before I then check for one. So let's do the post. Oh well, let's do archive post ID equals, and then we're going to use the WP insert post function, which passes some arguments to create a post. I think we'll run those arguments through a filter that just allow developers to change them if they wanted to. Don't see why they would. EAP insert archive page args, and that's going to be an array. And these are the arguments that we do to create our post. So post type, first of all, make sure we add it to the right post type, is our custom post type, which is EAP archive page. Post title. What should we use for the post title? I guess the post name, which is going to be one of the labels. Name, I guess. So let's do, that's going to be, I wonder if that sanitizes things for you in here. Don't know if it does. I'll sanitize it just to make sure. Sanitize text field, and that's going to be args, labels, and name. Font to be a little larger, that is absolutely fine, we can do that. There we go, it's a little bit bigger. Hopefully that'll help. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same, Craig, that the option might be better. We can still revert, it's fine, we haven't committed to that yet. So that's fine. So that's going to insert my post. Let's make it published as well, otherwise it won't be, will it? Post status is publish. Beautiful. And then we'll tap that in a bit, nice and neat. I'm a stickler for neatish code. So then we need to check where that worked. So if the post was created, now I think, why does VS Code do that? That's really annoying. Sublime always used to just work with that. I assume that returns the ID of the post. Let me just double check if it created it properly. Insert post. Returns. Right at the bottom, as usual. Return the post ID on success, the value of 0 or WP error. Okay, so if this is 0, if 0 is not equal to that, so if we have a post ID to work with, WP error, interesting. Ah, right, what's that then? Can I set it to return 0 error? Where's it gone? Whether to return a WP error on failure default is false, right? So it won't return a WP error, it'll return 0 or the post ID. That's good. Okay, cool. So if that is working, and that's, we've got a post, we want to store some metadata about this. So let's say add metadata to associate this post with this. No, that's confusing. To associate this archive page with this post type. Cool. So we could say update post meta, and then we're going to have the ID of the post, which is archive post ID. Then I believe it's the meta key. So what key we're going to use, we've done that in the query there, haven't we? So we're saying the meta key is that. And then the meta value is the name of the post type. So that's post underscore, type. Lovely. So we update that. Anything else we need to do? I think that's fine. So let's see if that works. Save. Be prepared for lots of errors. Back to my site. Whoa, stop. Refresh. And we've died again. Excellent. One quote. TP arguments is. Oh, we've had that before. Hang on. Yes, I realise my debugging is very, very primitive. But it works. It works for me. Syntax error, unexpected equals on line 98. That's good. Really trying to make sure it's the right data type. Okay, so has that created an archive page? It's created 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably because that hook fires more than once, I guess. I'm guessing for that. So, why is that created 4? I don't know. We will work that out and we'll find the answer to that. But I have gone on for nearly 45 minutes, so I think it's about time I wrapped this up. We'll debug that afterwards or in the next episode. So I don't know if we can bring me back on the screen. I'm sure we can, but that's just the magic button. And yeah, so thank you for watching and watching me sort of stumble along there to type simple words and get lots of errors in my code, but hopefully you enjoyed watching someone else do it as well. And we will continue this next time. Again, if you've not subscribed, click subscribe. If you want to like this video, I'd appreciate that as well. And leave some comments below. Let me know what you enjoyed, what you thought I did wrong, what you thought I can improve on. We'll see if we can do that. I love it. Mark says I've ended on a cliffhanger. Well, that's to make you watch the next episode, Mark. So you'll have to tune in and find out. Hopefully, I've literally no idea why it's doing that. I'll find out, but literally no idea. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. It's going to be on probably, don't quote me on this, probably Friday afternoon at the same time. So anyway, thanks a lot. See you later.